Hey, good afternoon. It's Shireen Herrera from Jared and Shireen in the Morning. It is time for another edition of Tech Tips. Patrick Lawson with Wind River Internet is joining us, and the topic for this month is something we're all involved in a way, and that happens to be hidden locations, personal data tracking. We all do it, except the cookies on a website without really reading the information. And Patrick and I were just talking about it's not actual cookies, right?
No,
Okay.
no, no.
But what happens if you say no on when something pops up and says, "Do you want to accept these cookies?" Will the website not operate if you say no?
It
That's
de-
what I thought.
you know, it depends on the website, right? Some don't. If there's a lot of news websites, it doesn't really change anything, but um, sometimes it does, or
Okay.
sometimes they might not let you go any further. Um, Sometimes they store your preferences and things in those cookies, so and also the ads, and that's what we're talking about today.
So with personal data tracking, hidden location, and what data can companies actually track and what data can they not track, even though some are probably doing so illegally. And we're also going to talk about some of the top apps that are actually taking probably more data than you think.
Yeah. So back to the cookies real quick. So there's authentication cookies, which are keep you signed into a website. When you click the little checkbox that says remember me, so you don't have to keep signing in over and over again. And I don't know if you're paranoid and you think somebody's going to get onto your account and pretend to be you, like if it's in an open area or something, then yeah, obviously you don't want to accept it and you don't want to hit the save check mark. But that's where it stores that as in a cookie. So if you don't accept the cookie, it can't store that data.
So this kind of has a cookie jar
Yeah.
inside of
Yeah.
the computer. I love the analogy of cookies, but honestly, learning more about some of the data that companies are tracking has me a little leery on actually accepting some of the cookies on some websites. And like Patrick mentioned, some of them will actually continue just fine 100% without accepting that, and so therefore they're not able to actually track your data.
Yeah, like Facebook. So like the top 5 are like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and then like dating websites. And they track a lot of things. Like they track facial recognition, which I didn't even know was legal.
And there's like a whole other side of what goes on with facial recognition. They can actually track your contacts through facial recognition.
Wow.
I read that on the thing you gave me.
Oh, wow. You read more than I did. But they track
There you
your
go.
yeah, oh yeah, your background, like what's behind you, like
Yeah.
where you might be,
And it says also
your
your
object,
contacts.
like if you're drinking a brand name beverage.
But no, honestly, they're tracking a lot more than you think. And like Patrick mentioned, they're getting that logo in the background, that mountain or whatnot in the background as well, or your face with the facial recognition. And there's a lot more websites that use facial recognition than we know. Things are changing and ever evolving in the world of the wonderful World Wide Web. But I think it's important to protect yourself, and that's where Patrick comes in with Wind River Internet and talking about some of these ways where you know what's getting tracked and you know what apps are tracking you, mostly all of them.
I was told once that if you're not paying for the product, like Facebook's free, right? Then you are the product. So that's how they make their money, right? With ads.
That's a good
So
point.
if you're opting out of it, and you're also opting out of contributing to your content providers. So things that are free that are supported by ads. If you opt out of the ads and the tracking, you're also opting out of their ways of making money. So you might want to keep that in mind too. And it's usually like very I wouldn't say anonymous, but they kind of glump it all together. They're like, you know, this particular website tracks, a certain demographic, age group, and a certain area, region, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Facebook, that's how they got so big and so rich, is they track a lot.
And you know what
They can
surprised
really target their advertising.
Yeah, what surprised Patrick and I when we started really diving into some of these apps that were ranked on the data that they take with, of course, Facebook, social media, and dating apps being on the top in the top 5. Google was at the bottom of the list with a smaller margin of
Yeah.
data that was collected. And even going to Google Maps, that is constantly tracking your location if you're using it, they're only using, I think, 23 to 29%, while Facebook is 79%. So that just kind of tells you right there how much information Facebook really needs to uh, and is getting from you.
Yeah, it's interesting. They were like talking about work apps. They said number one, Slack and Zoom, and then Google Docs, Google Sheets, Gmail. It's just interesting.
They're only on 12% for Google
Yeah.
Docs, and again, 79% for some of the social media apps. But like Patrick mentioned, you're really opting into those for free, and you use those a lot. So that's probably another reason why those numbers are so much higher.
100% of companies could store your email address. Well, yeah. That's why you get so much spam.
Right? The junk folder needs
It's
to
weird.
out once in a while.
15% of companies know how much you weigh. I thought that was kind of interesting.
The companies that know the most about you, we had mentioned with Google kind of being down at the bottom, but there's quite a few workout and health apps in there, and you think about that, and they know almost the most about you.
That makes a lot of sense, though, because,
Right.
I mean, what do they call it? The quantified self, like the watches. They monitor your heart rate,
Right.
and you have those scales and everything, like really, really personal data. And the new iPhone stuff that just came out yesterday, their health app is like crazy. It'll actually tie into your personal health records and just get everything from your provider and include it. But Apple's really big on what they call end-to-end encryption, and where the keys are held with you and then whoever the other end is, and anything in between doesn't see it, and it's not shared with anyone. And they claim that's why they charge more for their products, because they don't sell the same level of advertising. And
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
well, it's a good thing if you don't want people knowing all your personal stuff.
What data can a company track?
Apparently a lot. I was surprised. I thought there was more limits to it. But when you're, agreeing to the website, when you go in, when you accept those cookies, if you're not,
And they're not real cookies. They're
whatever,
not actual cookies.
whatever the fine print is what you're agreeing to, apparently, and it can be just about anything.
Who reads the fine print? That's what I don't like. Who reads the fine print? I know I don't read the fine print too, and especially when it comes to, you're surfing on the internet so much, and it seems like, that's the other side of why the data tracking is happening at such a high rate, I believe, too. We're on our phones, just more and more as, it seems like as things, become more readily available on there. And so there are a lot of things that are tracking you. You can turn those off. Keep in mind, though, like Patrick was mentioning, sometimes companies are using those for advertising, and other apps just won't let you really utilize them without having that.
Yeah, the nice thing about it tracking you is it does kind of pay attention to things, and it sends you ads that are relevant.
It's also
so
just sending you ads that you just talk about with somebody.
Yeah, but if you turn it off, then you just get random ads. So I mean, you're going to get ads either way. Do you want ones that you might actually be interested in or not?
I don't know. I spend more money that way. I would prefer random ads of things I'm not interested in,
So
I don't buy them.
So you can do some things, like you could disable cookies and just not accept the cookies. There's options in whatever web browser that you're in, or apps on or settings on your phone, but it may limit what you can do on your phone and what you can see and what websites you can get to. So there's that. There's also VPNs, which are like there's a slew of them. I'm not going to say any by name, but you can pay about $10 a month for one, and it'll connect you to a server somewhere else in the United States or in the world, so that you can view content that's geographically restricted because of the way that their rights are. So you can watch different shows on Netflix that are only available in certain countries and things like that. But people also use it so that you aren't tracked. There's also a thing called the Tor network, or is it Tor the Onion, where they spread the traffic over multiple computers, so it's like not traceable. It's really slow though, and I think that's a bit overkill. I wouldn't bother with it, but there are ways of making you less trackable if you really are paranoid.
Yeah, and I think, as time goes on, kind of knowing some of the things that apps are tracking and what we can do to kind of, keep an eye on that a little bit. We talked about, some of the devices too that you speak around and things like that pick up just what you're talking about with your family, maybe at a dinner conversation. So that's always scary as well. But
yeah, I think for the most part, I mean, it's an AI just kind of picking up things to serve ads and stuff, but it's kind of creepy.
What about software? What about like, virus software? Does that obviously help with any kind of data tracking or?
A lot of them do. They have options in the settings so that you can, clean the cookies and filter out certain types of targeted advertising and stuff and tracking. And there's ad blockers that you can get. I don't know. A lot of times they break whatever you're looking at. Not a huge fan of them.
So with the data that a lot of these apps are taking in, if one of them have a data breach, that data goes to whoever hacked it?
Yeah. So
that's the other side.
Yeah, we were just talking about, like, how do people find out about these data breaches? Well, a lot of times it's the person that stole it.
Blowing the whistle.
Yeah, there's whistleblowers. People work at a company, be like, they happen to be storing everybody's usernames and passwords in a text file, as opposed to like an encrypted file that nobody can actually see with a hash, or really the security is just limited, and there's various reasons why the security wasn't as good as it should have been. A lot of the good companies, they do what they call bug bounties, and they'll actually pay like white hat hackers, good hackers, money if they find these vulnerabilities or insecurities in their systems, or like the data breaches, and they'll pay them. They'll be like, here's $100,000. Thank you for finding that and not telling everybody about it.
We want the good hackers.
Until it's fixed, and then they can be like, oh yeah, it happened, but we already fixed it, and it's not going to happen again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to know when it comes to personal data tracking. Big Brother.
Oh yeah.
So there's a whole side of that, but it's nice to just be reminded on how much, and just honestly, I learned so much about how much social media and dating apps are using your data, obviously for various reasons, opposed to things we use maybe even more so commonly as Google Maps and things of that nature.
Yeah, obviously they wouldn't really work if you didn't give them your personal information,
Right.
or if you give them the wrong personal information, then the other person might not be so happy with you.
It did show. I will give you a tip. If you are single and you are using a dating app, it said that you can, if you put a pet in a picture, you're more likely to get dates or swiped on or whatever that is. Anyway,
interesting.
I just read this whole awesome article about all of this stuff and this data, and they use all kinds of different methodology when it comes to tracking some of this data to give us the information about the data. It's all about the data. Patrick, anything else? Do we have any questions, Wyatt?
We do have one. Somebody asked, is there data limits and is there throttle data speeds? And is there a contract?
No to all of those for Wind River Internet. There is a monthly user agreement, but it's not like a yearly contract or anything. What you pay up front for the install in the first month, that's it. You're not obligated to pay anything beyond that.
I know we get a lot of questions about fiber optics too, and the fiber. Patrick and I were talking a little bit about that. Any updates?
Any updates? Yes, updates. We're trying to think of how detailed I can get or not get. Basically, we need to hire. We need to hire some people. So stay tuned on County 10 and our website, Wind River Internet. We'll be posting job positions. We're going to need day laborers and eventually some heavy equipment operators, and we're trying to do as much of our work local. So we want to hire people here to kind of help build out this project. It's going to be massive. We've got about 1,000 homes passed that are capable of getting gigabit internet right now.
Sweet.
Or even 10 gigabit internet for businesses, and it's going to go to 6,000 homes passed here in the next couple years. So we're expanding rapidly, and it's going to be even in the very remote places of Fremont County, which is pretty amazing.
It is, and we talk about the data collecting and personal data tracking. It's so important to have the ability to have the internet and have that resource. And so looking forward to finding out more with Patrick Lawson and Wind River Internet. Anything else about Big Brother, the data, and all of that and more?
Usually, if something's too good to be true, it is.
Even on the internet.
Even on the internet. For the most part, most of the big companies are okay to trust, but just be wary, or be vigilant. Yeah, that's it.
Be cautious.
Be
yeah,
cautious.
For sure. And as it's changing and things are advancing, Patrick is really in the know on a lot of this information. That's why every month we bring you tech tips. I'm Shireen Herrera from County 10's Morning Show. Jared and Shireen in the morning. Patrick Lawson, Wind River Internet. We'll be back next month with another awesome topic. Can't wait.